let's talk first about this holiday and I guess what it means at the Henry Ford. I think when a lot of people think of the MLK holiday, they think of the Wright Museum in Midtown Detroit, but it's just as important at a place like the Henry Ford. Tell us why.
Absolutely. First of all, we're thrilled to be able to once again commemorate the amazing legacy of Dr. King. And when you think about Dr. King, he was just an ordinary person who did extraordinary things. And that's what we do with the Henry Ford. We tell those stories of amazing innovators. And he aligns no different than the Rosa Parks bus that we have, or the Kennedy limousine that we have, or the other stories of innovators and amazing people who just did ordinary people who just did extraordinary things. And it's also an opportunity for us to really highlight one of our collecting categories, which is social transformation, and the impact that Dr. King had on changing the trajectory of our country. It's very important from an innovation standpoint, a history standpoint, and that's what we do with the Henry Ford.
Yeah, yeah. So what will that look like on the 17th through the 19th
We've
of
got
this
a
month?
wonderful program, 3 days of programming, which, as you mentioned, will start on the 17th. On the 17th, we will start with, we're going to have a play called The Beginnings of the Boycott. And the significance of this play is that it tells the background story of arranging and organizing the movement and the boycott surrounding when Mrs. Parks refused to give up her seat. And on December 1st, 1955, when she was arrested, we know that that first boycott had over 40,000 Blacks who decided not to ride the buses. But after that, there was so much more significant planning because that one day was great, but it didn't have the impact, the full impact. So the beginnings of the boycott, which was written by one of my colleagues, ex Alexander Durden, really tells the story of that background story of organizing, and also highlights that moment where they appointed Dr. King to be the leader of that boycott and that movement. Following that, we'll also have on the 18th, we'll have musical performances. We'll have Ashley Baylor, who's a local soprano. We'll have Sean Burden, who's a pianist. So we'll have music happening. And also on the 18th, we will have Dr. Jean Theo Harris. And Dr. Theo Harris is a world-renowned best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author, and she wrote the book King of the North. That's her most recent book. And the King of the North really highlights the impact of Dr. King and his advocacy in the North. When we think of Dr. King, we think about the South. But really, he was very instrumental in many movements in the North. And Dr. Theo Harris is a strong advocate for telling that story. So on the 18th, she will sit down with our curator of Black History, Amber Mitchell, and we'll have a conversation about her book, but also about the overall impact of Dr. King in the
Yeah.
North.
What do you hope that people who visit the museum, over the 3 days are able to kind of take away from not just Dr. King and the holiday, but also this sense of place with regard to Dr. King, being here in Southeast Michigan?
Stephen, we're really fortunate at the Henry Ford that we're in a position where we can really celebrate this important moment and Dr. King. And so, what I hope people get from being here is a renewed sense of inspiration. This is a tough time for many in our country right now, and it was a tough time then. And Dr. King, the organizers, many other civil rights advocates fought against what was a very challenging environment in our country. And so I hope that people will learn. I hope that they will be inspired. And I hope they will understand that it took the work of ordinary people. And these were young people, Stephen. These were not
Mhm.
people in their 50s and 60s. These were people in their
Mhm.
30s. And in many instances, people in their teens, college students who just did what they could do in their own personal capacity to try to affect change. And I think what's really special about the days that are coming up for the King holiday is that on Monday, January 19th, the museum will be free admission. So everybody can come. And on that day, we will have for the first time on display the chair that Dr. King was sitting in on the day that he heard Lyndon Johnson's speech, We Shall Overcome, which was
Mhm.
signaling the impending signing of the Voting Rights Act. So
Yeah.
that chair will live on in the Jackson home, which you know is a recent acquisition that we've acquired here that will open this summer. But the opportunity to just sort of get a glimpse of that chair and understand the magnitude of that moment, all the work that Dr. King and his advocates and civil rights partners were doing in that very moment, he heard the President of the United States signal to him. And we have that chair. And when I see that chair, I am reminded of not only the great works of Dr. King, but again, what ordinary people can do to affect change in our country.
Watch One Detroit, Thursday at 7:30 p.m. You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.